All right, well, hi, everybody, and thank you very much for attending. Jim and I are super excited to show you all the great things that we've been able to create using AI for design purposes. And I also wanted to thank the people who filled out the survey because that was super helpful in knowing what tools people really wanted. And luckily, the tools that we like are also the tools that people ask the most about. So in our first part of the presentation, we're going to demonstrate how designers and non-designers can utilize AI tools to create amazing visuals using MidJourney. And we selected MidJourney because it's our favorite tool after testing a number of tools. For the second half, Jim will take over and go live and demo the four different tools. We'd like to demo everything, but it takes a long time to actually render some of these images, and this will help us be more efficient in the 60 minutes that we have. And so I'm asking that people mute themselves. And Dennis, I can't see the comments, so if you would please monitor the comments and ask them at the appropriate time in the session, that would be great.
Will do.
And Jim and I have been working together for decades. He's an imaginative motion graphic designer, award-winning, running different departments across TV, graphics, and so on. And he's going to give you a little bit of information about himself next. And for those of you who know me, I've been in B2B marketing for decades, and then January came and we got AI tools, and I've been hooked ever since, and I'm now doing AI training. So in the next 6 minutes, we're going to talk a lot about how to use the design process, the different tools, how to incorporate AI into your workflow, and best practices. And Jim, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Hi. Yeah, so this is great. I'm glad that so many people showed up for this. It's really amazing. So I've been a graphic designer for a long time, art director, creative director, started in television, spent most of my career in television, broadcasting, and but I also was senior art director at NBC Internet Portal, NBCI. And I've also was a creative director at a global financial company recently. And so I've had, I've done a lot of video work, and then I've also done a lot of print and web. And recently I've been using AI, generative AI tools to generate graphics, for my projects. And it's pretty amazing. So that's what we're going to look at. We're going to focus really today on corporate sort of assets, web stuff, and print and things like that. We're not going to look at video, but maybe in the future we'll do something, show you what we do with video. So that's it.
Can you see the next slide, Jim?
I don't see a slide.
Oh, shoot. I am not sharing.
You're not sharing, yeah.
Yeah, okay, sorry about that, folks. How's that?
I can see it.
Yeah, so you want me to talk?
Yes, I want to carry on, yes.
Yeah, okay, so yes, so anyway, yeah, I have I've been doing generative AI for a while now. I started a company after I left my last company called SFO Design.video, and I actually do mostly video, but I've been using AI for video. And so how I been using it is by creating elements, in video. So generative AI, if you don't understand what it means, it's difficult for me to understand technically what's going on with generative AI, but it's basically these computers that are machine learning, and you type in, it's all with text or images, you type in or feed it an image, and it will learn from enormous amounts of data that have been put into these neural networks and analyze what we say, and then it gives you an output. So it's all based on text, and really the way you know, just kind of think of it as, you know, without understanding the entire you know, technical part of it, it's just like a magic box. You know, you put in something and it comes out, and you're kind of having this conversation with a computer someplace, where you type something in and it gives you something back, and then you put in something else and it changes over and over again. So these are called prompts. Your descriptive words that we put in are called prompts. And this slide we put together to show some of the ways that you might want to write a prompt. So a subject matter is important. Specify the medium that you. Well, I'm hearing a big echo. Super echo.
Somebody mute themselves.
Yeah. So you want to have a subject matter, specify the medium that you want, as a person or an object, or what is it you want to do. And then the medium would be like, I want to make a picture or a photo or a painting or a sculpture, and then using adjectives to describe what you are imagining, and also a style of what you might be imagining. You can, you'll see.
Sorry about that.
You'll see a lot of people use in like the style of Picasso or any of these or popular artists, and it's really good at AI is really good at like taking this style, a brush stroke or a style of an artist, and applying it to whatever it is that you're doing. You can also, and it's a little bit more advanced, but you can get into like putting in technical words of like a sort of lighting, like a lens type or a camera lens model or something like that, like a Nikon 2500 or whatever. You know, you might put that into your prompt, and it can sometimes replicate that sort of look. Okay, so this is what we put this slide in. So next is these are descriptions for when you're writing a prompt. These are some of the things you can think about. Is, you know, style and composition. These are some words that you might use, example of words you might use, and you got a million of them. Light, color, details, intricate, crisp, using specify different textures. And in MidJourney, you have these aspect ratios that you can put in different aspect ratios, and you do that with this prompt, you know, -- which is a command that you use when you want to do any of the different parameters in MidJourney. So you'd use a -- AR, and then 1:1 ratio, 2:3 ratio, or whatever you want to do, and that will size your graphics. So you have that ability to do that and control that. And so these are the tools that we looked at mostly. We're going to look at MidJourney mostly. Everything we're showing you today was done in MidJourney. But we did look at, and we played around a lot with Stable Diffusion in Dream Studio and Adobe Firefly, which is cool because it's also free if you're cloud, you know, if you have a Creative Cloud. And it's in beta right now. And then we also look at Dolly 2. And then if we have time, I'm going to do a little demo in Photoshop beta, which has got some really cool AI stuff in it now, for doing like what's called in painting or out painting, where you can extend a photograph or change inside of a photograph. So,
and if we get time at the end, we're also going to talk about the copyright ownership issues relating to these items, these different platforms.
yeah, so these are the kind of things that we thought we've been working on. Illustrations, photorealistic, and then conceptual type stuff like this one you're seeing here would be considered conceptual. Layouts for websites, brochures, sell sheets, all the kind of corporate assets that we use in marketing. Presentation slides and ad banners and logos and product packaging. And it's great for rendering different type of architecture, trade shows, doing interior design. So these are the kind of things that we did, and we're going to show you that.
So now the fun stuff begins, so.
Yeah, so these are just a few images that we picked out to show, and you can see the prompts that we put the prompts down here in the bottom or the top of these pictures. The one on the left is a modern 1960s pop fashion, woman dancing in miniskirts in the style of the old masters. Really simple prompt, great result, and I did that over and over again and just got tons of great images. The middle one is another, just an example of how you can just change styles and got a nice halftone art type high contrast style. And the one on the right is a scary clown. It's really simple prompt, and it's just amazing what comes out of this, and it's so realistic. And you can change. I did a lot of different scary clowns. This one I changed the prompt from just scary clown face to Santa Claus, and it gave me this white hair and a white beard, you know. So it's really, you can tailor it. I mean, I did lots of different ones.
And we also gave you the prompts that initiated the first rev of all of these images as well.
So like on this one, the original prompt is this, a powerful portrait of an elderly Asian man, capturing the wrinkles, texture of the skin, and expressive eyes that tell a story of lifetime in high resolution and natural lighting. So I highlighted the areas that I changed. So the next one over in the middle is, all I changed was elderly Dolly Parton. And then the one on the right, I changed elderly Robert Downey Jr. And it's amazing. It looks pretty much like Dolly Parton, and it's the same prompt, but this is what you get by just changing the one word, you know, a few words. This is something that we thought was probably very useful, for stock photography, and better than stock photography, because you can do a prompt and get like this woman on the left here, which is the, attractive Black woman, college student, smiling, confident, designer hooded pink sweatshirt, daytime campus setting, holding an iPhone. And you get this picture, but you might say, well, that looks too casual. I want her in like a designer black jacket. So the next one is, all I changed was designer black jacket to the same prompt. And then you might say, well, I would like to see it in the, designer green jacket. So the one on the right, just by changing the thing. So you can customize stock photography, which, easier than buying stock photography. You could have her sitting on a bench, or you could have her jumping up and down, or you could have her waving her arms, or you could have her looking sad. I mean, you can just by changing these prompts, you can get these images, and they look pretty great. This is some examples of like photorealism and sort of in conceptual. So the one on the left is a Himalayan view. It looks pretty great. It looks pretty real, I think. The one in the middle is actually more of a conceptual thing, but it looks very realistic. But I put in a dolphins in ocean made of plastic, sort of a political statement, but it looks pretty real, and you don't really notice that all the stuff on the bottom of that dolphin is all plastic. But I did several of these, and I got it to look more of that political type statement. But this one is really pretty, so I put it in here. And then the one on the right is a woman humanoid with robot wires, beautiful face. And you can just do that stuff all day long. It's really great at just making up really crazy stuff. And I think what makes this sort of realistic is this cinematic adjective there, or technical term, that makes it give you that depth of field and the lighting that it has.
And the difference of Jim creating this and me trying to create the same thing is, Jim adds these subtle changes like sunlight and dramatic lighting, and it changes the whole image. So there'll be lots of commands you want to start playing around with that you add as descriptors.
So this is another very useful type of thing you can do for architectural, like stock photography. I intentionally did this one on the left, and I called it a traditional style office, brown wood bookcase, leather chairs. I did this because this is the kind of stuff that we used to use in stock photography. It used to look like that probably in the 90s or something, or maybe 80s. And now, the one in the middle looks more like what we might use today, what an office might look like today. But you can create different time zones and I mean, or decades, you can go back and just recreate stuff. The one on the right is kind of interesting because I put in Google Meeting Room, and you see what it does with the lights. It puts in this little Google touch there. Generally, AI won't give you like the Google logo. I have done some things which gives you the Apple logo though, but mostly it won't give you logos. It gives you some kind of thing that kind of looks like a Google logo, but it's not. It's maybe a trademark issue or something. But it did do that little lighting effect on the overheads there.
So Jim, one of the comments is that the prompts are very simple as opposed to being long and detailed. So
Yeah.
isn't this the case that you start with these prompts and then you start refining from there?
Sometimes the best prompts are really simple, and I've done really complicated prompts without success, and I've done really simple ones with success. And I see people doing these prompts that are like a page long, and it's great. It depends what you want to do. And like Rosemary just said, you could start with a simple one like this, and then just kind of get more casual, like more intricate with it. Like complicated with it, where you're saying, I want to see something more specific on the background, or I want to see the people dress a certain way, or I want to see, whatever it is that you can think you need to do to nail it down. But I know I've got a couple of more complicated prompts in here that I've researched and got great results. But like this is one here, this is one that has, this is an example of a more complex, prompt on this Japanese home here, and it's got very detailed wood textures and different designers and all kinds of things like that, and it came out really beautiful. But you can get the same results, with a lot less too, and different results, but maybe just as good. And then like these other ones are the ones on the middle, and then the one in the right are very simple, and they look pretty great. This bedroom,
So Jim, just tell them about the story of the image on the left, because I think that's awesome, and I know you're going to show it later.
Yeah. So the default sizing in MidJourney is 1024 by 1024 pixels. So they're always square unless you specify a aspect ratio. But this one on the left was square, and I added in Photoshop. The beta Photoshop has this generative AI part of it that I added on the right hand side and the left hand side, and I was doing this constantly on this project that I recently worked on. It's a television show, and I was creating elements. Everything has to be 16 by 9. Well, I was creating elements in MidJourney that weren't 16 by 9, and I was also creating elements that were 16 by 9. But sometimes the 16 by 9 had more stuff that I didn't want, so I was creating them square and adding everything on in Photoshop. So that's what I did here at the left on that picture. These are examples of websites. So we call them first draft layouts because obviously the text is not real. It looks kind of real, but it obviously doesn't say anything. But it gives you these. You can do layouts for web that just give you really beautiful ideas for a website. And obviously, you would take this and give it to a web designer, producer, and have this built. But for ideas, if you want to communicate with a designer, or if you're a designer and you want to communicate with a marketer or someone or a client, you can create this stuff and say, I'm thinking of something kind of like this. For a designer, they could go in here and just add a bunch of text that's real, or the client's logo or whatever, and make it even more specific. But still, you can get to a place so quickly with design by literally minutes. Just go, wow, I've got 5 different directions for this website. So that's what this is an example of.
And many people asked in the survey about how does this contribute to good UX design, and I mean, this is what gives you the inspiration. You can rapidly generate all these images and ideas and spark your creativity, and then you've got these different layouts that you can then take and do A/B testing with if you wish.
So here's another example of some really nice e-commerce layouts where for an outdoor company. And what's interesting about this is this is the first page, and then the next page, go to the next slide, are the category pages. So this is really great and very useful. And you can see that this could be a real website, and it's just, you know, done with layouts and with prompts. So social ads, you know, these look pretty good, I think. Stuff for web. You can see the prompt, the really simple: design an ad with text headline, millennials shopping with their iPhones, cool colors are gray and gold. And, you know, like, you can do this, it looks great. Now you might want to specify, get more, you know, details in it and colors in it and different types of people and everything. But this is an example of how you can create ads that look pretty good pretty quickly. Again, with web banner ads, different sizes. This is really an example of all these were created in MidJourney, and they came out like this in these sizes. They weren't cut down or anything. So specifying the pixel width, and there's aspect ratio generators that you can go online and find, and you can type in a pixel width, and it'll give you a you know, a ratio. So like, I think the bottom left ones here, the yellow ones with the construction, those was like aspect ratio of like 2:9 or something like that. And then on the ones on the far right were like 3:9 or 4:9, something like that. So I didn't specify as pixel width, but I just gave it an aspect ratio. So if you're doing these ads for Google or something, you'd have to go in and rebuild them anyway, and then you would size them to the exact size that you need. Here's an example of some brochures, corporate type looking brochures. Great way to get some ideas for layout. And again, really simple prompts. The one on the left is there because it's an example of using hex colors, which you can use in MidJourney to get colors. I'm not sure which, I can't remember what green this is, but it is one of these greens here in the Compure, whatever this is, the green brochure on the left. But yeah, so you can use hex colors. Doesn't recognize PMS colors, but it recognizes hex colors, and it gets you close. So when you're doing comps, you can, you know, get it close to what your client's colors are. These are white papers. Probably everyone's done tons of these. These are great, just examples of more layouts, and you can just mix and match layouts. Some are more complicated than others. Technical, you can go less technical. This one really came out just by changing the color light and dark, and it changed it completely different. So slide layouts. This is an example of some PowerPoint presentations slides, and you know, great. I mean, you could really great way to start. You know, obviously you have to build it in PowerPoint, but you can get some really great ideas from it. So.
And it is pretty amazing. Out of just using, what is that, maybe 15 words in the prompt, you get all these layouts.
Yeah, right. And I say, like, when you yeah, and when you get to a point like this, you might just say, you might want to fine tune it. So you add some more things, and you keep that prompt and add, you can, in MidJourney, you can add to that prompt by just remixing it, or you can copy and paste it into a new prompt and then add new things. So
I have a question. Can you give it like a block of text, like for my white paper, and say lay it out in a white paper or on a web page?
no, it won't lay out your information.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll just give you layouts, and then you have to put it in there. You have to, you know, use another program to. It's just really for designing, you know, for like a layout with like lorem ipsum, basically. You know. So
for the person who just says it's like magic, that's what we think too.
Yeah, you know, this one on the left here, this Nike shoe, that was the first. That prompt. That was one shot. That's how it came out after just typing one time like that. I didn't type it. A lot of the prompts I have to type over again. And they look like really simple prompts, and they are very simple prompts, but it's not always the first thing that I type. It's like maybe like 10th time I typed it. But this was the first, that was actually the very first thing, and it came out so great. And then the second one was an example of packaging. So, you know, again, and then the third one is also like a package for some shoes, and pretty great. You know, you design the shoes. You can. I've done a whole bunch of furniture design too, and that I'm not showing it here, but I did a lot of furniture design and just amazing stuff that you could maybe go build if you had, you know. So.
And what's been interesting for us is you can see that the Nike icon is there, but
Nike.
Nike, but we haven't been able to get like a Google logo or anything on there.
Right. So the one in here, I didn't put the NBA logo, but I put NBA, and you see like in this that package, it looks like NBA colors. You know, that, I mean, it has I did specify some colors, but then it looks like almost like the NBA logo up there in the corner.
And Bob, you had a question? You'll have to, I saw somebody raise their hand.
Yeah, Bob you'll have to unmute Bob because I muted you.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. It was more of a response to Dennis's question. So Microsoft has a project that's so far released to the enterprise, but eventually will be available to consumers before the end of the year, called Copilot. So each of its individual applications is going to have AI feature set. So the request that you suggested, please lay it out, is likely going to be in that feature set. How to lay out text with images embedded in it inside a Microsoft Word document.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's amazing, you know, how fast things are changing. And that's something we didn't talk about, but it's changing so fast. And it's really hard to keep up, because where's it going to go? You know, I don't know, but it's just amazing how fast just putting this presentation together, we had kept updating it because things are just changing. And the other day I was the tools just changed. They add new features, and who knows where this is going to go. It's just amazing. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what'll happen. These are some example logo design. Very, very quick to make marks like this. I added the text in Photoshop and all these, but the marks are just really, you know, you can just create that stuff all day long. Here's some examples of some poster designs. Super quick these posters, I did every one of them, but then I put the text on in Photoshop. It didn't take long, but every one was done in like maybe half an hour. I did the whole thing, every one of them.
Okay, so now for some fun things. So Jim and I picked a couple of different images that we liked in MidJourney, and then we looked at those across different platforms. So now you're going to see MidJourney against Firefly, Diffusion, Stable Diffusion, and Dolly too. So Jim, do you want to just?
Yeah. So obviously the slide speaks for itself. Same prompt, you know, the one you saw before: modern 1960s pop fashion, women dancing in miniskirts in the style of the old masters. MidJourney left side, Firefly, you know, the left, right of that, Stable Diffusion example. This is what you get for the exact same prompt in these different programs. And Dolly too looks pretty cool. It's not like what I was thinking at all. MidJourney on the left was really close to what I was thinking. Dolly comes up with a very cool illustration, but then Stable Diffusion just doesn't work, and Firefly doesn't work. So all these tools have benefits, different benefits, and cons, pros and cons. But kind of what we're going to show you later in the live thing, we're going to put in the same prompt and you'll see what comes up. Again, you know, same prompt, different tools. MidJourney gets it, Stable Diffusion gets it, Dolly didn't do too bad, Adobe Firefly just not great for layouts, but great for other things.
And when we did the Firefly one 3 weeks ago, it wouldn't even render a layout at that time. So it has changed. Just
I think it was like 2 days ago that it started doing something kind of like this.
Okay, Jim, so we're going to go live.
So I'm going to share my screen now, right? So you're going to release yours and I'll share my screen, right? Okay. Okay, see my screen?
Absolutely.
See my cursor?
I can. It's nice and big.
So this is this is this is Discord that we're looking at. This is the program Discord, and that's where MidJourney runs on Discord. If you want to do MidJourney, you got to have an account on Discord, which is like a social media platform. My son uses it for games and things like that. So you can communicate with other people doing all kinds of different things on Discord. This application, what I did is I signed up for Discord, I signed up for MidJourney with an account, and then I picked the app MidJourney in Discord here. And you see on the left-hand side here, these are all what's called servers. And so I have my server up here. That's what they call the spaces in Discord, or servers. We're on this D here, that's a demo server that I'm on now. I got some friends server here. I've got different servers here. This is the MidJourney server here. If I click on the MidJourney server, you'll see that now I'm in a different meeting room. So I'm in like one of these meeting rooms, a public meeting room called Newbies 22. Here's Newbies 52. And so in here you can see what people are creating, all this stuff that people are creating, and you can go in here and see. You can actually copy these texts and do it yourself or modify them. So this is all like public use. You can download these photos. It's all just open. It's really open. And so one of the good things about going into one of the newbies and starting in the newbie room is you can see how to write prompts. You can look at a prompt and go, how did that look? So you can get a really good example of that. So I'm going to go back to the demo server here. And I think I'm going to start with a prompt. Let's see, what maybe the woman, attractive.
The yellow
Yeah,
top.
this is a prompt. This is so when you do the prompts, you have to type in this little bar down here at the bottom. And first thing you do is you hit hashtag, and then for the first time you do it, you're going to have to type imagine. But I've done it before, so I just go. It just pops up for me. And these are like different things that you can do. These are different parameters that you can blend, or you can go for help. You can go into settings, and you do that by always starting with that hashtag. I mean, not the hashtag, the backslash. So I'm doing the a prompt. So now it's ready to put in a prompt. I'm copying it so I don't have to look silly trying to type. So here's it is: attractive young woman, college student with a backpack, yellow tank top, smiling at the camera, campus setting, daytime. And so now I'm hitting return, and now it's thinking, and you can see the status over here. It's waiting to start, and TGR is me. That's my handle. So now, and that starts to give you a percentage of it's almost done, 30%. You'll know what it's done when you get all these little buttons, all these new little buttons pop up. So you can see it's still coming in, generating. It's almost done. So now it's done, and you see we've got these new buttons down here. I'm going to click on this, and I can see a large thing. I can also open in a browser, getting the larger view. But you can see the quality of this. You can pick which one you like and which one's just amazing. So I'll explain the buttons here. So when you do a picture into MidJourney, you get 4 pictures. It gives you 4 choices, and this is number 1. The one to the right is number 2. This one's number 3, and this one's number 4. And these boxes down here correspond to 1, 2, 3, and 4 pictures. The top row is what's called upscaling. So if I want to make this a larger, basically choose that photo and give me a larger one just of that photo, I would hit upscale 1. And it goes through all the rest. If I want to go this one 2, this one 3, this one 4. And then the bottom buttons have this V there, which stands for like versioning or variation. So if I want to just make a change to this one, let's say I'm going to make a change to 1, I'll hit variation 1, and then it pops up this remix prompt. So I'm going to just change this word from yellow to blue and just see what happens. So now I'm putting blue tank top instead of yellow. And then it's going to generate, now it's starting the process over again, generating 4 more pictures of this new prompt that I put in. So let's see, it'll just take a
And then-
second here.
When that's done, you're gonna go to the other platforms, right?
Pardon me?
You're gonna go to the other platforms with the.
Yeah, we'll go to the other platforms. How are we doing on time? You
Well,
okay?
we've only got 20 minutes left, so.
Okay, so. Yeah, so here's how you can see, like, this is coming in. You can see that on most of them, it changed it to a blue tank top, you know, which is, you know, really helpful if you're doing something with you know, for stock photography. So I'm gonna take the same prompt and I'm gonna copy it here. And we'll go into let's see Dream Studio, which is Stable Diffusion. So here's I've already put this prompt in before, and this is what we got with that prompt in Stable Diffusion. So a little bit different. The quality really isn't quite as good. This is MidJourney, and then this is what you get in Stable Diffusion. And the way you would do this is you just put it up here in the prompt, type it in and hit Dream, and it will generate 4 pictures for you. Again, just like the MidJourney does. In Dolly 2, let's type that in. I'll put same prompt as the young woman in the yellow tank top. I'm gonna generate that in Dolly 2. And so this line indicates that it's working. And so this is what it gave me, you know, kind of weird, you know, because like the eyes are kind of messed up on this one here, and this one, the eyes are kind of messed up. So it's really, the quality is just not there for some reason with that prompt. I'll go back to Discord again, and you can see the difference. This is very real. It looks very much like stock photography. The Dolly looks a little bit more like snapshots, which might be something that you want, you know. So that's what I mean. Like, each one does something different. You might want to say, I don't want that super polished look. I want something that's a little more rough. We can go in and try Firefly, Adobe Firefly. This is Adobe Firefly, and it has a lot of different things that you can do, and we'll maybe talk about it later. But we're going to do what we've been doing in Discord and MidJourney and Dream Studio. MidJourney and Stable Diffusion and Dolly is we've been doing text to image. So I'm going to select that option here in Firefly. So this is what's cool about Firefly is it gives you all these different pictures already done with the prompts, and you can try that prompt, and then you can modify that prompt if you want. But it's a great way to get started with doing AI stuff. So I'm just going to pick one that's realistic, only because we're going to do a realistic picture. So maybe this dog here. So I'll try that prompt. So here's what this prompt is. So I'm gonna get rid of that prompt that came with the stock one that it came with, and I'm gonna put in my prompt, which is attractive young woman, college student, backpack, yellow tank top, smiling at the camera. So let's see what it does. So it's also going to give us 4 pictures. And again, pretty good, you know, not quite as professionally stock photography as MidJourney, a little bit more snapshotty. This looks real snapshot, like, you know, something you might get on an iPhone or something. But pretty good. So one of the things that's really interesting about Firefly, it's in beta. And you can't use the images yet, but you've got all these different, to make something a different aspect ratio, you can just it's all right there. You can do different kind of styles, you know, color and tone, lighting, and there are all these presets that you can use in Firefly, which is kind of cool, you know. So I think I'll go back to Discord and we'll do another prompt.
Right, let's do one of the ads.
One of the ads. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna do an ad line. I don't remember what this one looks like, but this one I'm gonna do a different ad. So again, I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna hit the / prompt. I'm gonna paste in my thing. So here over on the right, I hope you can see this. I've got --AR 3:4. So that's my aspect ratio. Going to be 3 by 4, 3 wide, 4 down. And let's see what happens here.
So
I
I
don't-
have a question for you, Jim. Can you create a picture of a person or multiple people, then extract only the person and not the background? Then separately create a background and then export the two images into Photoshop and overlay the person over the background.
You can create you can create different, you can create a background without the person. And then you can also, other programs you can have negative prompts, so that like in Dream Studio, you can have a negative prompt, which would remove something like that. You could say remove the person, but I've done that before, but I've actually created just the background and then created the person and then photoshopped it. So we could try something like that. So here's 4 different ads that I just did with that prompt, which was in cybersecurity. And, so if you want to look at one of these larger ones, I can do maybe upscale 4. And I think this one gave me the Apple logo.
Yeah, I'd like to see that one again.
Yeah, so it did give me the Apple logo here, you see.
So it's really variable, isn't it, about when you'll get
Yeah, Apple is the only one I think I've ever seen. I think the only time I've ever seen Apple logo. It might work with other ones, but it's the only one. So go into Dream Studio and try to type the same thing here. So I'm gonna copy my prompt into this there here and hit Dream. Here you get some settings where you can do the aspect ratio, and you can also do image count, so you can do more or less images. And so there's different functions that are kind of cool on different ones.
And then Jim, in a few minutes, I'd just like to quickly, are you going to show anything else here before I go to copyright?
Well, I don't know. Do you want to do the Photoshop thing?
Yes, I want you to do the Photoshop part.
Wow, these look pretty cool, but they're not really great banner type ads, but too complicated for that. But they're kind of interesting looking, but not really great.
So what's the highest resolution for each of the 4 AI options?
They're all 72 DPI. Everything is 72 DPI. You can go like 1024 in MidJourney, and then I believe in Stable Diffusion you can go twice that. I think you can go twice that, but it's all 72 DPI. So you can get a little bit higher. You can get a larger image in I think it's Stable Diffusion. But it all comes out 72. So I've been doing some paintings that I've blown up like to 4 feet, with some of this stuff. So going into Photoshop and going into make it 300 DPI, and there's a little process of sharpening, and that you can actually blow some of these images up. So I'm going to go to Photoshop now, right? And show that thing. So this is really interesting to me, because and if any of you using Photoshop, let's say here's my square picture, my 1024 by 1024 that came right out of MidJourney. So in here we've got this thing where we can generate new backgrounds. So if I go in and I select I'm going to select this side.
And you're using Photoshop Beta, right?
I'm using Photoshop Beta, and I'm going to select this side. So you see these, I'm going to try to fill this in with the same picture. So I'm going to hit generative fill. Can you see this? There's this, so I'm going to hit generative fill. And so I could put in, it's giving me an area to put in a prompt. So I could put in a prompt and fill it with something else, but I just want it to fill in what we see in the picture and make it look natural. So I'm just going to hit generate without giving it any other instructions. And it's very fast. So this is interesting, how Adobe is incorporating these AI tools into AI models into Adobe products now. It's almost done. So it looks pretty perfect, right? I mean, it
Right.
just filled in perfectly. So you got a couple of other things that you do. So if that's called, if you see things like that expanding a picture, that's generally called outpainting in the you know, in AI, generative AI. So that's what you'd call this is outpainting, which you're expanding the picture. So if I want to go in and change just something inside the picture, I can use my little lasso tool and I can like highlight, you know, select around this chair. And so I get the same prompts as generative fill. So I'll hit generative fill, then it gives me a little place to put in a prompt. So I'm going to put, you know, white fuzzy chair. And then generate that. So it should replace that chair with a different type of chair. And it's using imagery, though, I believe, only, and it's using all Adobe stock. So the images are that you do and you generate in Photoshop are actually licensed. So again, you know, you can see how it put in a fuzzy chair and it looks pretty good, right?
It just looks totally normal.
And
real.
what's interesting also is you can see on my layers here, I can go back. I can turn that layer off and I can turn this layer off. They come in as layers. So you just, you know, merge the layers if you want, but you can easily see, I don't want that chair. I mean, if you did it again, you could go back to, you know, to this picture here and select it and say, you know, green fuzzy chair. See what happens. Almost done. Okay, so now it can give me a little puff on the side for some reason, but again, you know, that's just, this is a layer. You know, I can turn it off and on, or I can turn the other one on, and you can try to decide what you want. This one gave me, oops, I had 2 layers on it. Pretty cool, I think. I was amazed, and it's fast, and I've been using it all the time. You know, for adding on to, you know, picture, you can put a picture that's kind of cut off and you could add on a face, you could add on all kinds of different stuff. So anyway.
All right, I'm going to take back for a minute and then people can, then we'll give a few minutes at the end here. This will only take a few minutes to walk through here. So copyright considerations, can you can't see my screen yet, can you? Just a sec. Okay, copyright considerations. It should really be ownership. So according to the Copyright Office in the US, you can't copyright works that were created by machines. And of course, this is all in the courts and it's going to be there for a long time. But this is what the current legal standing is on ownership, is you don't own it if you don't create it all by yourself. So MidJourney gives you a license to reproduce and distribute the prompts and images that you create. And you own those images, but you also have to make sure that they don't infringe on others' copyright. So in one hand, MidJourney is telling you you own everything, but it's still up to you to decide whether there's a trademark or copyright on those images. Stable Diffusion also allows you to use their images for commercial and non-commercial use. OpenAI also is the same. They say you own the images subject to their content and terms. And then Adobe says that for currently, while it's in beta, while Firefly is in beta, that you do not own the images. You can use them for personal use, but not for commercial use. So I'm sure this is all going to change. And then you'll probably have the same rights as the other platforms give you. One thing you can do, there's a couple things you can do just to see if your an image that you've created looks really simple, looks really similar to something else, you can use what's called a reverse image search. It's really, you just go to Google, you hit this little icon right here, you put your image there, and it's going to return images that look very similar to what you've got, if there are. You can also, within MidJourney, you can create, you've got your image, you can then just say search image with Google, and it'll give you examples of where it got those image characteristics from. So that's all I'm going to say about that, because we're not lawyers and we're just giving you the information that's found on those sites. So I just wanted to open it up in the last few minutes to any questions that we haven't already answered in the chat.
I have a question for Jim, because I'm going through some existential questions of my own as a content creator with generative AI. You've obviously gone all in as a designer with generative AI, but I'm wondering if you've connected with any peers, other designers, because you're showing stuff where your entire career has been learned how to do things, and now AI is doing this for you. So how might others be thinking about this?
Well, I do have a couple of different peers that we share a lot of stuff, you know, and everyone's using, a couple people are using it in different ways. I'm the only one that's really using it, trying to use it for corporate type stuff, right? Other people are using it for, like, a friend of mine next weekend's having a big art show. And he's actually won a couple of art shows. He prints out large scale images that he makes, and he's been doing work for a winery where he designs all the artwork for the winery in AI, but it's not really graphic, you know, it's more like fine art. But you know, you think about this replacing designers in any way, and from my experience working with it, and that's kind of what I thought originally when I said, wow, this is going to replace designers, you know. But so far, really what it is, and it could eventually, it may, you know, lose some jobs, but it's really just a tool, you know, another design tool. And I've been an art director for a long time, and I find that I feel like an art director here, right? Because you come up with an idea and you give it to the designer. In this case, it's the bot, and it makes something, and then you go, maybe we need a blue sky, you know, and then it puts the blue sky in there. Or actually, maybe could you put you know, and you just keep changing it. So it's kind of like art direction for me, you know. And like I said, everything that we've been showing is layouts. You know, when I use it for real, I have to go in and use other tools, you know, print tools if you're going to do print. I haven't printed anything. I'm using it for video mainly, but yeah, I did this show recently, and I made all these elements for it, and I cut out elements and I put it in with other elements but I created everything in AI, you know. And I feel like going into search, like into Google and searching stock photography, it seems stupid to me. It seems like it doesn't seem smart, you know. No, I want something like this, you know, and I'm trying to find it, you know, and I'm able to get there quicker in AI these days.
So
I don't know if that answered your question, but that's
a question as well.
the last question is about video. So you talk about using it for video, but you're not using it to create video.
I am creating videos with it, and you can see some examples on my website, which is sfodesign.video. You can see examples of the stuff that I'm creating. It's all experimental type stuff. I'm getting closer to be able to actually use it, you know, for real, but I've just been experimenting with it. All the elements, the stuff that I've basically been making elements and then using After Effects and Premiere and things like that. Now, when I was working at this financial firm, we were doing a lot of infographic type videos, and I'm not able to do that in AI right now. I would be able to create some elements for that, like icons and things like that, and maybe layouts, but then I'd have to go back to traditional tools. But I think that's coming, you know, there's a lot of tools out there that can do like avatars where you can pick a person's face and you can type in some words and it'll give you, it'll mouth the words. It's not really great, but it's getting there. The other thing I've been using it for is typing it, making scripts, you know. I've also been using it to create elements to put in and make mouths move. So, you know, it's still really interesting. Like I said, if you can see some of the things that I've been working on are very abstract and but very interesting. So.
All right, so I think we're right at the hour now, Dennis, right? So.
Yep.
So thank you, everybody, for joining us. It was fun for us. And if anyone is interested in training their own teams, please do get in touch with Jim and I. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rosemary. Thanks, Jim.
Hey, thanks a lot. Have a good day. Bye.
Take care, everyone.